I drank alcohol and came home late at night. If the roads hadn't been crowded, it would have taken me about 10 minutes by car from the nearest station to get to the condominium where I live, which is located a short distance away. Usually I take the bus both ways between the station and home. But at that time it was past 1 p.m. and approaching AM when there are no late night buses running. Therefore, I took a taxi home that night. The condominium has an auto-lock system, so I unlock it by entering my code and took a few steps to the elevator hall. It's a 12-story building with the basement level parking garage, and I live in room 711 on the 7th floor. The elevator was stopped on the 7th, so I had to wait about 2 seconds for it to come up to the 1st floor. Since it was so late, of course, the area was dead quiet without any signs of people. It's taking a while. The elevator isn't coming. It's just sitting there stopped in the basement and isn't coming up for a long time. I wonder if people are waiting for it down there. I'm starting to get irritated physiologically. But there's no way I'm going to walk up 6 flights of stairs. All I can do is stand there, getting more irritated while looking up at the indicator light showing where the elevator is stopped. Without precisely checking the time, I think nearly 5 minutes had passed. At that point, I was in the mood to yell at the residents downstairs for stopping the elevator. So I decided to go down to the basement. Bang, bang, bang. My own footsteps sounded unusually loud. I went down and down the stairs and came out to a wide open area with many cars parked. I immediately went to the elevator room. There's no one there. Oh well, I tried to let it go. Maybe because I was tipsy, or because my wildly swinging emotions were quelled. I felt relieved that I had avoided some useless trouble. As I got onto the elevator, the door opened, and then I saw there was already a woman riding inside the elevator. When I got on, I reflexively muttered, "Good evening," as a greeting. She was silent. She just kept looking down without responding. I started to get angry again. For some reason, it really bothers me when people ignore my greetings. I get irrationally upset when my pride is excessively wounded. Even at minor things. She doesn't even say hello. And she parked the elevator in the basement. Damn, how rude. I wonder which floor she lives on. That's when I noticed the only floor button lit was number 6 where I was going. She lives on the same floor? Still feeling irritated, we arrived simply at the 6th floor. Since she had gotten on first, I got off first. Normally residents would say something like, "Good night" here. But because of what just happened, I silently exited without a word. I heard the door swoosh closed behind me. In the end, she didn't get off on the 6th floor. Weird, I thought, as I went home without giving it another thought. Then, a few days later, my wife came home late one night, after a drinking party with clients from her company. First, she called me on my cell phone. She had taken a taxi home and arrived at the front of our condo building, but only had a little over 10 yen in cash on hand, so she didn't have enough to pay the fare. She asked me to quickly bring some money down to the 1st floor. No choice, I guess. Wearing pajamas and slippers, I took my wallet and headed to the 1st floor, where my wife and the taxi were waiting. The elevator was stopped in the basement as usual. I pushed the down button to call it up and waited. As everyone can imagine, the elevator really didn't come. With an unpleasant feeling, I briefly recalled that strange woman from the other day, and decided to take the stairs down instead. Partway down around the 5th floor, I checked to see if the elevator was coming up yet, but it was still stuck in the basement. I gave up and continued briskly down the stairs. I finally arrived at the 1st floor, thanked the taxi driver, and paid the fare. I don't recall the exact amount, but it was over 1200 yen. Instead of a tip, I gave 2000 yen and told him to keep the change. My wife and I tried to get on the elevator. Yet again, it was stopped on basement 1. Even though I didn't think it was that woman's doing this time either. I was thoroughly fed up. My wife laughed and said, "You're so impatient, but I can't stand unnecessary waiting." I briefly told her about the weird late-night elevator incident before, and the two of us went down to the parking garage. Once again, there were no signs of people or movements in the basement. My wife was amused. "Maybe it's a ghost," she joked. "That can't be. This is a new building," I retorted. While chatting pointlessly, we got into the elevator. On the other side of the opening door there was nothing. Just the clean beige panels of the unremarkable elevator interior, and no one else riding inside at all. I felt let down. Then several more months passed after that. About that late-night elevator getting stuck in the basement, more and more residents started reporting similar experiences, and it gradually became an issue. The management association dismissed it as pranks and began posting notices in the elevator hall and sent emails urging caution. Around then is when I noticed a sudden increase in residents using the stairs. Up until then, only people living on the lower floors, and maybe children, ever took the stairs. But now even people like me living on high floors started using them. I began passing people on the stairs frequently. Of course, probably 90% of residents had stopped riding the elevator. And for good reason, a decisive incident happened after that. The details are unclear since the affected person and family, even though it's a condominium complex, moved away. But according to gossip among residents, around March this year, a high school girl living on the 4th floor, Miss A, came home late after a date. When the elevator didn't come, she went down to the basement as usual to get on. Supposedly when it arrived, there was a woman with long hair standing facing the back. Miss A got off on the 4th floor and returned to her room. So far, so good. But shortly after, she realized her cell phone was missing and figured she must have left it in her boyfriend's car, since he had just dropped her off at the entrance earlier. She didn't think his car would be very far away. So Miss A called her boyfriend from her home phone and asked him to bring her phone. When she tried to go down to the 5th floor again, it seems that woman was still there, facing backwards in the elevator as before. Miss A supposedly got on anyway. It's unclear what happened inside, but the moment she arrived on the 5th floor, she started screaming and violently thrashing around. Her voice was so loud even I could hear it on the 5th floor. Wondering what was going on, when I rushed down to the 5th floor, several residents in pajamas had already gathered and were standing around Miss A. Some were trying to restrain or comfort her. Miss A was in bad shape. I guess you could call it a fit. I don't really understand, but she had lost control of her bladder and was foaming at the mouth. Anyway, her sandals were scattered and she was flailing so much. Her skirt rolled up almost to her waist. It was quite a dreadful frenzy. I desperately tried to hold her down, but she kicked me near the ribs and momentarily knocked the wind out of me. Soon the ambulance arrived and took Miss A away with her parents, and the police came and questioned her boyfriend, who had no idea what was going on. For the record, Miss A had been a cute high school girl who properly greeted people when you saw her.